Agent Carter Season 2, Episode 2, A View in the Dark. Now, coming off of the premiere, I think this was definitely an interesting episode that showed a lot for what they can possibly do for the rest of this season, because not only do we get, well, admittedly, the relationship stuff I don't personally care too much about, although the one scene when Sousa was like really angry and stuff, it was kind of funny to me. I was like, man, for a guy who doesn't return calls and is about to get engaged, he's super pissed for this woman that he still cares about. And it was just kind of funny, like, he really doesn't know what he wants right now. But they did a lot of cool stuff in this, because they show off like the secret weird society. We get our official first link when we see the image above the doorway of why the woman from the first episode had that pin, and it's because of this organization, which we still don't know exactly who they are, but I just realized it's actually Hydra. Um, or at least like whatever they call themselves, because it was the upside down image or whatever, so it's still Hydra at this point. But it's really interesting. It's like it's the early version of Hydra, but they don't seem to have really anything to do with Hydra at this point. It's like they're really like when they even when they have the meeting, it's like, yeah, I'm still making money off of like some stock crash or whatever he was talking about. I was like, this doesn't seem like Hydra whatsoever. And the only thing that does is this isotope thing. And I mentioned in the premiere review that it seemingly like it had nothing to do with the obelisk, and I still don't think it does, because of what it does. Like, we get a full example, and I don't know, maybe it was a part of the obelisk, but I mean, based on what the obelisk does, I feel like it has nothing to do with the obelisk. I think it's just something totally different, and plus we get to see it inside of this woman by the end of the episode. So I feel like it's still just exactly what they said it was. It's like the isotope experiment or whatever they were calling it. So I don't think it. I still don't think it has anything to do with the obelisk, and I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, clearly it hasn't shown up so far in Agents of Shield, but we can see where that goes, because at this point, based on what it is, it's insanely unstable. Like, it's something that blows up, and seemingly, like, based on that video they had, which was impossible to get considering like trucks were flying into it, but the camera was just like, I'm capturing everything. Um, Based on that, I don't think this has, this isn't going to really transition over. I think this might just end up being an Agent Carter thing. Because if Hydra succeeded in having that for all this time, they probably wouldn't be having any issues, being the villains. They'd just be like, all right, let's shoot a portal over here and just suck in like 1,000 things and send them off to who knows where across, the unknown universe. So I'm kind of looking forward to getting an answer as to what this isotope thing is, because we get the experiment. It creates like a weird black hole on Earth and sucks things in. But then we get the end of this episode. We see the Dr. Wilkes. He disappears seemingly, and the woman Miss Frost, she has the little scar on her face. So it's almost like he disappeared and she somehow absorbed it. And maybe some weird stuff. I don't know. I was like, maybe they somehow, like, he's been absorbed into her body or some really crazy stuff, because obviously this big explosion happens. He's gone, and she's still alive somehow. So I really don't know what to expect. She seems, I mean, based off of the end of this episode and the trailer for the next, she's going to be the main issue for this season, which I'm kind of looking forward to, because I'm wondering if she's going to have a bit of control over this power. Over time she might gain control, but at the same time it might mess with her mentally, and she'll change from who she currently is to something totally different by the end of the season. But either way, she'll still be the villain. So I'm kind of looking forward to getting some answers. I'm really looking forward, honestly, to getting some answers, which I'm sure we won't in the next episode, exactly how she survived and it fused with her somehow. But I think this was definitely a fun one for what they showed us. Like, it was like, here's exactly what's happening. Here's the connection to New York, which means possibly, I mean, it doesn't necessarily say it, but maybe the woman from the first episode, if I remember right, her name was like, it was not Cookie. It was something like really close to that, like Tootie or something like that. Um, so maybe she'll come back because it's Hydra, so they still of course have people all over the place. She might get busted out of the FBI. Who knows? Now that I think about it, maybe the FBI that came along. I mean, based on the conversation, that's actually the FBI because the chief in New York, he knew the guy from when he was younger. So I'm assuming that it's actually the FBI, but that doesn't mean they're not Hydra. So there's a lot of possibilities, but they might bring her back into things, and she might end up being a rival for Peggy again this season. And who knows what's going to happen with this organization, because their plan was, all right, we're going to get rid of this because there's too much press, there's way too much stuff going on, and they're right about to cover it up, and then they have this big explosion, Doctor disappears, the isotope, fuses with the woman. They've got some stuff that they need to handle right now, so I'm sure we'll see a lot of these people come back throughout this season, and they'll be having their little super secret meetings and everything, trying to figure out basically, where do we go from here, because they've got a ton of issues to really deal with. But I'm really looking forward to it. It got me very excited based on the way it ended. Because of what they did with Wilk's character and how they made it where he and Peggy bonded very quickly in this episode, like they even make out at one point. I'm pretty sure we're going to get an answer as to where everyone's been sent to so far, and maybe it'll be different for him compared to the people that were hit in like that wormhole video that we saw, just because of exactly how things happened. But I feel like we're going to find out where people have been sent, or at least exactly what's happened to him, because they gave him such an important role in these first two episodes. They certainly made a point to say, like, hey, here's this new character for this season that's fairly important. So I'm sure it won't, I don't think it'll be the next episode, but maybe like 3 or 4 episodes down the line, we might get to see this guy come back, and he may or may not be the same, I don't know. But I think we're going to get an answer, because it's like, hey, here's the character from those first 2 episodes that was fairly important, and had, especially in this one, he had a lot of different scenes. So I'm sure we can expect to see him sometime later this season. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully that happens. Otherwise, he's dead. I'm pretty sure they're going to have to save this woman because she's fused with the isotope. So he's gone, vanished somewhere. She'll probably just die because she's fused with it now. Who knows? I mean, her skin's... I don't know if that is like a good sign or a bad sign, because it could be that she fused with it, but just already after like a couple of hours her body's starting to fall apart, and it's just tiny little crack, but it could expand across her body. Based on the trailer though, it didn't seem that way, but who knows? I mean, that could just be the beginning, and it just takes maybe every 8 hours, like a tiny little piece or something, and then we'll see that happen throughout the season, and it should be worse and worse. But that was really fun to me. Of course, Peggy finding out about Zeus's girlfriend, and then of course finding the ring. That kind of sucked. It was like, man, like I've mentioned before, like he basically just ignored her, and then he ends up finding the girlfriend. It's like, all right, found this woman, and now I'm gonna marry her, and just nothing to Peggy whatsoever. It was kind of a dick move on his part, I gotta be honest. But they're talking and everything, and he's like, like of course they're having the conversation as they're walking into the office, and it's like, oh, here they are, right as we're talking about it, of course. But I don't know where that's gonna go. I mean, seemingly everything's fine at this point. Um, I mean, clearly he still cares about Peggy, and we have this woman, he wants to marry her, and maybe he will, even in this season, they might get engaged. What if she died? And then that leaves it open for season 3, where they could still end up together, which really sucks, because now that I think about it, that might actually happen. And if they do get married and she lives, then it might happen in season 3 where she gets killed off or something like that, and that's still how they end up together, because we still don't know who she ends up with, because she mentioned, if you saw the second Captain America movie, she does mention that she has like kids and stuff like that, and even grandchildren. So we don't know who she ended up with. Still, like even in Ant-Man, they don't show anyone with her. They just show her. Sorry if that's a spoiler if you haven't seen Ant-Man, but trust me, it's mine. It means nothing. So I don't know. Like maybe they'll do that. Maybe they'll play around with it. It would make it dramatic if they did save this character and she becomes a part of the series for this season. and then maybe halfway through or close to the end of the next season they kill her off, so that way it still has a bit of an impact, because we know this character is like, all right, it's kind of settled now. It's like Sousa's with his woman, that's his wife, and Peggy's just left to be with whoever. But then they kill off Sousa's wife or something like that. So they might do it, might not. I don't know. This Agents of Shield has been getting pretty dark, so they could definitely do it in Agent Carter. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm sure that they probably won't do that until like the very end or something like that, if they even kill her this season or at all, honestly. So we'll have to wait and see. But they do kind of toy around with the idea of Peggy being with the scientist. So if he does get saved, that could still happen. Definitely had the scene, which I was wondering if they were going to do this, because of course the time period that it's set in. I was like, maybe they're going to do this, and they most likely will, because you kind of can't have anything set during a certain time period that doesn't have some form of racism in it, because a lot of people were just racist, because that's how it was. And as soon as I was thinking, I was like, I wonder if they're going to have a racism scene or something. They go right into the bakery, and the guy's like freaking out and stuff. I'm like, oh, here's the scene. Like, that's exactly it. So, of course that happened, and I love Peggy for it, because she's like, we easily could have just punched him right in the face, and that would have instantly adjusted his attitude, which would have been insanely horrible if they did that, because you could probably guess the real outcome of that. Peggy would have been totally fine. But I thought that was kind of funny. It was an interesting little moment. So I just thought that was interesting. Like, yeah, they put it in there because I don't think there were like any black people in the first season. I don't really remember. But yeah, so I thought that was kind of funny. Like, right as I was thinking it, that's exactly the scene that they had. But it was a fun episode. It was definitely a fun episode. I'm very excited for the ending, or for kind of what the ending is going to lead into, because there are just so many possibilities now as to what can happen, and I'm just looking forward to it. I'm really excited to see where they go with this, exactly what the real big plan is, because we still don't technically have any answers as to what was going on. I mean, I guess that had to do with the isotope, the woman from the first episode, but even that doesn't really explain it, unless the same kind of thing happened, but her body was frozen in a block of ice, so obviously it's not like her body exploded and then the isotope kind of went back to that little floating gel that we saw from the first episode. So even if she had like a bit of the isotope in her, and it basically led to her blood causing other people to literally just freeze, then it's like, does that happen with everyone, which I highly doubt. And it kind of brings up a lot of questions as to whether or not, I highly doubt it, but maybe this has something to do with the Inhumans or some form or something like that. I don't really know. But there's just a lot of possibilities and questions as to what they're going to connect to inside of the Marvel Universe. Is it going to have connections to this season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Is it just going to be its own thing, a lot like Season 1 was? So, there's a lot of stuff happening. Like, so far, the connection is Hydra, or whatever they're going to call, this current version of Hydra, with the sort of, which leads into, like, the space aeronautics thing or whatever. So, there's a clear connection there, but there's just so much other stuff where it's like, this could happen or that could happen. Obviously, a ton of other things that, there's really no answers at this point, just some weird stuff has happened, and it's like, block of ice and a woman fusing with isotope, and that's all we've gotten. It's just like, how'd that happen? What's going to happen with that? And that's pretty much it so far. The only answer really has been who the pen belongs to. And like I said, I didn't realize it, honestly, until I started the review, that it was the same symbol from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when they were looking at, like, the NASA counterpart of Hydra, or like the little organization that they had within NASA. So that's really all we've got so far. Like, that's our only answer, and it comes from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. rather than this show itself. So I'm really looking forward to getting some answers and just getting into like this weird mystery and seeing what's going to happen with this current little group that we have that's sectioned off from Hydra right now, because there's a lot of possibilities. So I think this was a really fun episode. Definitely lots to come. I liked a lot of the stuff with Jarvis in this episode, like him exercising in this, and he's like poking Peggy's in just the pose that he had, and he's just like, all right, like, come on, I'm not gonna hurt you and stuff. That was a really funny scene. And then when he was like on top of Peggy, and then his wife comes in, and she's just like totally calm, and it's like I like their relationship because she, even in that crazy super close position they were in, she just walks in and sees them in that, and it's just like, oh, did he get you in his patented, whatever he called that move, like his tortoise move or whatever. I was like, I like her as a character because it just shows their silly relationship, and she knows like nothing's going on with this guy. It's just him and his judo, I guess. So I really liked it. It was a very minor thing, but I like that. Um, the scene that they had in the car was definitely funny, and just Howard's weird like sex cars, like, oh, champagne and tinted window lever, which I thought was actually, that would be a really awesome invention in real life. But he has a lever for that. He makes the seat go all the way back, and Peggy's like, is that a mirror on the ceiling and stuff? I was like, it's just really funny. Definitely fits Howard's character. And it was just a nice little scene. So they had a lot of very funny moments in this episode for sure. But I'm really excited for this season. Like this one, like I enjoyed the first episode, but I actually did like this one a lot more, just because of the crazy ending. Because I didn't think anything honestly was going to happen for maybe like 3 or 4 episodes, but because it's such a short series, they speed everything up. So what this probably would have been like normally episode like 3 or 4 if they had like 20 episodes to do something, and that's a lot of like with season one's a part of what made it so fun is like they only have this much time. They have to just keep stuff going, so we get like twice as much content per episode, and it's like they went episode 1, episode 2, the isotope is fused with the human. It's like I thought that was just gonna be some floating gel for like 3 episodes or 4 episodes or something, and then it's like nope, they went in to steal it. That didn't work out right. Wilkes is gone, fused with the woman. Tons of questions. So I definitely enjoyed this one quite a bit more than the first episode, which was still good in its own right. But this one had me really excited because it was such a huge change compared to the last one, which was like, oh, we figured out who the bad guy was, and then he died. And was like, okay, well, we already knew, like, the one guy, we knew he was a bad guy anyway, and then the guy was actually sleeping with the woman that died. So the only real surprise there is that his wife was actually involved with it. And even that was like, alright, that's not that big of a deal. But this one was like, okay, we have a guy who disappeared and the isotope stuff. So, nice little ending there to keep it satiated, or sated, whatever the word is. Satiated, both I think work actually. Um, until next week. But I certainly enjoyed this one. Of course, though, want to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I, of course, want to know what you guys think is happening with the isotope. What happened with Wilkes? Is he, fused somehow with the isotope, and they're both are just gel molecules, inside of this woman now? Is he just gone in some other part of the universe? Is he somewhere else? I would assume if he was still alive, they would have done it where he was with Peggy, unless he was actually captured, which I don't think is the case because they don't show him being captured or anything. It's just the woman at the end, kind of on her own. So, I don't know what to really expect from it, but I'm very excited. Like I said, though, want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.